Hi. So get this out of the way quick. Geeky Gentleman got delayed as it's been more and more lately. I apologize. I should probably move closer to my microphone. Forgive me for any background noise there. Anyway, so yeah, Geeky Gentleman postponed for about a week. Hopefully only a week. But the Spider-Man episode of Geeky Gentleman will be coming soon. Anyway, today I just wanted to make a quick video because I've had this kind of kick around in the back of my head for a while, and I thought it'd be a fun thing to talk about. And this is just the nature or the importance. That's a better way to put it. The importance of a good villain. Something that's bothered me, especially in comic book movies, lately, is just the lack of great villains in comic books. Not just in comic books, but comic book movies. Just in general, it seems like we've had a real diminish in the number of great villains that we've seen. Like, this is something that's bothered me about the Disney movies I've watched recently. I thought a lot of the villains were really weak, or in the case of like Frozen, I've talked about this, how I thought the villain was completely unnecessary. And so I wanted to talk just on my own, just about my own thoughts when it comes to the importance of a good villain and what it means. And so I guess the best way to start is the reason you have a villain is because you need someone for your hero to struggle against. And that struggle can be ideological, that struggle can be just based on different desires for objects, or there's a million different reasons that you can do it. But it's important for your villain to have a motivation that is fundamentally opposed in some way, shape, or form to that of the hero, or in some cases is in the exact, or have the same motivation as the hero, but to have a completely different outlook on how to derive that ultimate goal. And so I feel like there's been a really just a lack of that lately in film, and I wanted to talk about that. And I also wanted to talk about just the importance of making me buy your villain, or making me believe that your villain is buying what he's selling. Because I think that's what this is really. It's the nature of that's really put this in my head. So as you guys know, I really didn't like Scott Snyder's Endgame, and not just because I find his stuff to be very derivative of, especially Morrison's run on Batman, but also other iconic Batman things. And I've certainly softened my views since I made that video, but also I really found his take on Joker to just be fundamentally flawed. And the reason behind that is he writes the Joker in such a way that the Joker does not buy what he is selling. And what I mean by that is when you read Scott Snyder's Joker, and Paul Dini, I believe, has a very similar take on him. When you read their Joker, it's very clear that at the end of the day, they don't believe anything that they say. And there are moments here and there where that's not true, but by and large, the overarching way in which that writer is writing that character, that character just clearly does not believe what is coming out of his mouth. He's like in Scott Snyder's, the Joker just acts crazy as an excuse to do whatever he wants, or he just says all these deep things about how life is a joke and blah 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 because he really just wants an excuse to be a bad person. And Paul Dini, it's just he just acts crazy so that he can get away with crimes and be sent to Arkham as opposed to prison. And it's not that version of, or that way in which people write the Joker is wrong. It's just really weak. It's been done that way off and on for years in the comics, where, like, I particularly remember reading an issue of Secret Origins, like, you know, one of those catch-up issues where this is this version of the character and you know, has their eye color listed and all that shit. I remember reading an issue of that where Bruce Wayne had I said Bruce weirdly. Bruce Wayne had compiled a file on each of his villains, and his file on the Joker basically came down to, after all this, I believe the Joker has tricked everyone into thinking he's crazy, but that he's really sane, and all that stuff. And it's not that it's not that writing the Joker in that way is invalid. It's just really shallow and very pointless. And it takes the oomph away from the Joker that I feel makes him such a great villain. And so when you write him that way, I feel like you're diminishing the Joker, but more so I feel like you're diminishing Batman. Scott Snyder's Joker, in the last scene of Endgame, spoilers, Scott Snyder's Joker is trapped under, or is trapped in a collapsing cave with Batman, and he's, you know, clawing and fighting, trying to get out of the cave, because he doesn't want to die, and Batman's the one keeping him there. And I just cannot deal with that. That is wrong for the character on so many levels. Because when you write the Joker like that, you're making him pathetic. You're making him very, very shallow in his character, as opposed to being frightening, which is what the Joker is. The Joker is one of the most frightening characters in comic books because he is so overwhelmingly powerfully scary. I don't know what else to say. He's just this force of pure terror. So when you make the Joker afraid to die, when you make the Joker not believe what he has to say about life being a joke, or about you know, I'm not crazy, I'm the only sane one, when you take that away from him, you really do lose the oomph that the character has, and that just bothers the hell out of me, because in doing so, it means that Batman doesn't defeat this symbol of nihilism, of terror and chaos. It means that Batman just beats a guy who's, you know, kind of pathetic. And that's disappointing, because, like I said, it not only diminishes the Joker's character, it diminishes Batman's character in that way. And so I think this all really boils down to just making sure that your villain is sincere. And I don't think people do this very well lately. I feel like the villains and stuff lately has been either really poorly thought out, or just poorly thought out, or pathetic, or tacked on just because we have to have a villain. Another thing that I think happens is people make or structure their stories in such a way where the villain couldn't possibly have won. And while I guess I can admire that in the sense of, oh, the villain couldn't have won because the hero's so great, I do find it kind of disappointing in that the villain needs to be a force to be reckoned with in so much as the hero is. Because, once again, when you diminish the villain, you diminish the hero. When your hero is unstoppable and can't possibly be beaten, and they beat a villain that, you know, didn't have a chance anyway, then what's the point? I guess I can get into kind of like Superman with this. You know, I enjoy Superman from time to time, but I find I don't really care for his stories a lot because he is completely unbeatable. And so a lot of the villains that he goes up against really aren't a threat anymore. And that's problematic. It's hard to read a story where you know the guy's going to be perfectly fine. That's why I kind of enjoy a more rough and tumble Superman. And even when you write Superman like a god and give him just unbelievable power, like Grant Morrison did in All-Star Superman, you know, the villains in that book, the Kryptonian astronauts, they're pretty big forces to be reckoned with. They straight kick his ass. And he's only able to win against them because of a mistake they made, which, even though I love All-Star Superman, I do have a problem with that. I don't like it when a villain only wins because they made a mistake. And I should point out, there's a difference between a villain making a mistake and a hero forcing a villain into making a mistake. Those are very different things in my mind. You know, Spider-Man has that a lot, where he ends up winning because of a mistake the villain made, as opposed to anything he was able to do. And maybe he was able to capitalize on a mistake, and that's about it. But I always find that very disappointing. Because, like I say, it's just, the importance of a villain is that they make your hero greater. So when your villain is pathetic, or when your villain is prone to making mistakes left and right, then what does it matter that your hero beat him? At that point, it looks like anyone could beat him. So I hate to say it, but I mean, that kind of bothers me in All-Star Superman. Admittedly, they had no idea they made the mistake, and they were effective for the time they were there. So that's at least more beneficial, and that story really is, that part of the book is really more about Superman's ability to show mercy and stuff. But still, I mean, it's disappointing when your villain just can't when your villain can't deliver on the same level as the hero, because it doesn't make your hero stronger. It just makes him weak. Or it doesn't make him weak. It makes your hero less important. Because it's almost like, well, the problem nearly solved itself, so why are you here anyway? But when a hero forces a villain into making a mistake, when they, you know, are so overwhelming, or when they do a specific thing to, you know, trick the villain or whatever, that's a completely different story, and so that I find acceptable. But I feel that diminishing your villain is really weak writing. And I think it doesn't help your character grow in any way, and it doesn't make me care. It doesn't impress me when your villain can just be beaten because they're, you know, prone to making mistakes or whatever. It's just disappointing. This might be a little rambly. I don't know. It's just something that I've had on my mind, and I wanted to talk about a bit and just get out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I don't have a lot of specific examples here and stuff, but I feel like I've made a pretty good case overall of just why it's important to have a good villain, because the better the villain, the greater the hero has to be to overcome them, and that's a fundamental rule of writing. And so when you make your villain weak, you make your hero weak by extension, is my overall argument. And heroes shouldn't be weak. We should look up to them. So, everyone, thank you for listening. I hope this wasn't too rambly, and I'll see you next time.